Hi baking family, I'm Emily, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite pies, strawberry balsamic pie. Sounds crazy, it's delicious. Let's get started. Let's take a look at our recipe and ingredients. This recipe calls for a 9-inch double crust pie shell. Our filling is going to use 2 to 3 pounds of fresh strawberries. We're also going to use a 1/4 cup and 3 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons balsamic vinegar, 3/4 cup packed brown sugar, 3 tablespoons cornstarch, a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 2 grains of black pepper. So to get started, we're going to rinse our berries, then we're going to hull and quarter our berries until we measure 6 to 8 cups depending on how big and deep of a pie pan you're using. And we're going to set them aside in this bowl with some sugar to macerate. To give you an idea on techniques, hulling is where you remove the green and the inner white spot of the strawberry. The best way to do it is to insert a paring knife right into the center of the top, and then you're going to twist the berry and it just pops right out. There you can see I've extracted both the stem and the white bit. The key is to try to get the spongy white bit out in the middle, like a jack-o'-lantern. I usually just quarter it. If it's super large, I might, cut it into 8s. All right, let's do it. Total of 8 cups. I like my pies to be nice and full, so I'm doing a full 8 cups of berries, which was 3 punnets or 3 very full baskets of strawberries. Now that our berries are all prepped and ready to go, I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar and sprinkle the berries. I'm going to use a slotted spoon to stir this up. Make sure the berries are nice and covered. And I'm going to let this sit for an hour. And you might think, that's crazy. Well, it is crazy, but it's going to do something magical. It's going to macerate the berries. The sugar is what we call hygroscopic. And so it's going to pull out a lot of the extra moisture and water inside the berries. And we want that because that means when our berries are baking in the oven, they're not going to get really super runny and watery inside. So let's let those berries macerate for an hour. All right, it's been an hour and our strawberries have macerated. We are going to strain them now through a colander with a bowl to catch all of the drippings and juices. After letting this sit for a little bit, I'm going to put the strawberries back in the bowl and we're going to mix up the rest of our filling. All right, now we're going to take our drained berries and all of our dry ingredients, our 1/4 cup of sugar, our brown sugar, our cornstarch, salt, and even a couple grinds of pepper. All right, so we add our dry ingredients. We're going to give it a gentle stir. And now I'm going to drizzle my liquids on top. Make sure you give this a good stir. Get all that brown sugar and balsamic juice covering all of the berries. It's going to get nice and syrupy, super fragrant. Yum. You should have already rolled out and crimped and chilled your pie shell. Check out my video on how to make pie dough as well as how to roll out pie dough. Now before we fill our pie shell with our filling, we're going to do one little trade secret, which is you add about a teaspoon of flour and a teaspoon of granulated sugar. Mix it together to create a very fine, what we call crust dust. And this is going to create a nice barrier, so when our pie goes into the oven, it's not going to get as soggy of a bottom crust. Now that we've got our crust dust, I'm going to add the filling to our pie shell. I'm going to do it a little bit backwards so you guys can see. And at this point, once you get towards the end, you might need to start kind of moving the strawberries around a bit, make sure they all fit. Now I like my pies super duper well filled. I did about 8 cups of strawberries and it's like brimming. I'm not gonna quite use all the berries, so I'm gonna save them as a topping for ice cream. Now I'm going to make a lattice top, which is a woven pastry top to enclose my pie. Once you've rolled out your pie dough, use a ruler and a paring knife to cut approximately 1-inch strips of dough. You're going to take 5 to 6 strips and lay them vertically across your pie, starting in the middle, alternating and folding back every other strip. You're going to lay and weave in horizontal strips. You do that on half the pie, turn it around, and do the other half. Once you've laid all your strips on your pie, you're going to use a paring knife to trim all the excess dough from the edges, leaving about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of overhang. You're going to then carefully and quickly work the overhang into your existing crimp. Now in a deep dish pie pan, this can be a little tricky as you have to kind of pull out and find your original crimp. This is a little easier to do on a normal depth of a pie pan because your crimp will be right on the edge. Continue to do this, moving the pie around in a circular direction to keep your hands in the same spot. Makes it easier. And voila! Now we're going to apply egg wash to ensure we get a nice golden color on our pie. I like to use 1 whole egg, 1 tablespoon of water, and a pinch of salt. Mix it up with a fork and spread generously across the pastry. Careful not to pool it up along the crimp. Chill your pie before putting in the oven, and then we're going to bake for 20 minutes at 425 degrees on the bottom rack. All right, it's been a full 40 minutes on the middle shelf at 375. We've got lots of nice bubbling all around the edge, a slow bubble, so we know that the syrup, the fluid inside has gotten nice and thick. Got good browning, and you can even see there's nice color on our bottom crust as well. Obviously, if you want to keep it in a little longer to get it darker, you're welcome to do that, but strawberries are pretty delicate, so at this point I think I'm ready to take it out. Let your pie cool on a cooling rack for 2 to 3 hours before slicing. You can keep your fruit pie at room temperature if eaten within a day or 2. Otherwise, store in the refrigerator covered in foil. Enjoy! Be sure to enjoy this pie with a glass of chilled rosé, and check out my other baking videos on how to make pie dough and roll out pie dough. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to subscribe. Happy baking!